Y'all need fireworks? Come on. I got what you need right here. I got the bang for your buck. Now see, these Roman candles are the best thing. I'll do these for five for 20. I always keep the black cats with me, baby. Little lollipops for the kids, you know, they all like that. Uh-oh, victory swords. Looking for a little bang for your buck? Right here, the Diablo Neon. That'll be the one.
Good morning, sweet world, and welcome to the No Dunks podcast on the Athletic Network. It's Friday, July 1st. Happy birthday to Canada. Happy birthday to my wife, Nora. Love you both. I'm J.E. Skeets, and joining me here in the yard today, we got the bearded one, my top shot hot boy, Trey Kirby.
Heyo.
Hey, and wow, look at that. It's the International Man of Mystery, taking it to the max, taking it north of the border. Leigh Ellis, what's up?
Hey, how come I'm in Canada on Canada Day and you're not? That seems a bit weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. You just go whenever you want, wherever you want. During the busiest time of the year. But we're happy to have you here.
It's crazy stuff.
Super producer JD in the backgrounds. Also in Canada, pushing them buttons. So don't you worry. He's going to make this run smoothly here, hopefully. Shout out to the stream team joining us live right now on YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment, share the show. Email in your NBA questions to nodunks@theathletic.com. On today's podcast, oh my God, Leigh, we got so much to talk about here. This is insane. We're going to get to free agency day one roundup. We'll talk about what you guys think are like the best steals, the biggest overpays, thoughts on contract extensions, and all that. That's going to take a while because a lot happened in the first, what felt like, 5 or 6 hours of free agency. But we start with this news. On Thursday, The Athletic reported that Kevin Durant has officially requested a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. This came, 24 to 48 hours after we learned Kyrie Irving had committed to the Nets for the 22-23 season, and it came mere hours before the official start of free agency. I did a quick podcast on this yesterday. If you want to hear my thoughts, go check that out. It's now in podcast form. It's available on YouTube as well. But let's hear from these guys. Trey, KD wants out of Brooklyn, and I know we can get into talking about trade packages and all that, but what was your initial reaction to this?
Well, Skeets, you say a lot happened on day one of free agency. Did it? Did Kevin Durant save day one of free agency, or did Kevin Durant ruin day one of free agency by making his trade request early in the day? Not a lot of big name players actually changed teams yesterday. Pretty boring day one of free agency, aside from the fact that one of the best players in the league on a 4-year contract requested a trade. Pretty weird that the biggest news on day one wasn't a free agent move, wasn't even a move, just asking for the move. It's like when the pilot of a TV show is incredible and then the rest of the season is just okay. Kind of like, I don't know, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead. I don't know what it was. So thank you to Kevin Durant, because day one, super boring otherwise. We will see how this actually shakes out with the Brooklyn Nets. But if it comes to pass that both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving leave the Brooklyn Nets, which is what seems to be the most likely scenario, pretty shameful destruction of a franchise, if I'm being quite honest.
Yep.
At least when LeBron James comes to your team, completely runs the front office, and then leaves you with a bare cupboard at the end, you're going to the finals and probably winning a title. This team won one playoff series in 3 seasons, and that's it. They out of here. The good part, I suppose, for the Nets is that they are lucky that Kevin Durant has already signed to his extension that's kicking in this season. So at least they can recoup a little bit of what they've lost in acquiring him, in acquiring James Harden, in acquiring Ben Simmons, all of these different trades that they've made over the course of these 3 seasons. What a difference in the team from when those guys showed up, from when Kyrie and KD showed up alongside DeAndre Jordan. The coaches are different. The players are different, but the Nets feel like they are back to the post-Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett era, which is not good. We will see just how much this league has changed, because you saw and heard a lot of, we haven't seen a player of this magnitude ever request a trade like this before. The only one I can really think of that's similar at all is Kobe Bryant back in 2007. He was coming off 3 titles, back-to-back scoring leader in 05-06 and 06-07, and obviously a Laker legend already at that point. But the Lakers held firm because there were no trade partners out there that they were really interested in. I remember the Bulls were a huge a huge chance back in the day to get Kobe, but they would have had to trade Luol Deng, which then would make Kobe not want to go to Chicago. And it might end up being similar stuff for Kevin Durant here because, I mean, he's an incredible player. People are going to back up the Brinks truck, but they also know that the Nets are just having their feet held to the fire a little bit here by KD and Kyrie. So we'll see if the Nets are able to do what the Lakers did. They held firm. They brought in pieces around Kobe. Kobe won the MVP in 07-08, back-to-back titles with Pau. But the Nets don't have the track record, and I don't think that they have the stones for it. And I think the league has changed too much for them to actually kind of push back on this one. You don't want to be the team that fights with the big superstars when it was very exciting for you to get these big superstars in the first place. So just crazy stuff. It really put a damper on free agency, I thought, really hit the brakes for everybody else because there are so many players out there or so many teams that are thinking, we can make some little moves here. We can get in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. We have to at least try and see if we can be a part of this before we actually move on to what was going to be our first plans. But it really threw a wrench into the day. And we're still talking about Kevin Durant first, and we'll probably talk about him last as well.
Yeah. Why do you think this is happening now? This is the part I can't understand, Leigh. Like, why is Durant hours before the official start of free agency leaking this, obviously, to the heavy hitters in Woj and Shams and saying, I've requested a trade? Like, what is it that suddenly he wants out of Brooklyn?
Well,
why now?
I guess last week we heard the rumors that Sean Marks and Joseph Tsai were saying we're prepared to lose both of these guys, Kyrie and Kevin Durant. So maybe Kevin Durant went to them and said, are you guys trying to trade me or you don't want me to be here? What's going on? And maybe they said, listen, we've decided, yeah, you're available to be traded if we can get the right package for you. And so Kevin Durant maybe said, all right, well, screw you guys. And I definitely want out. I want to see if I can cause some chaos because, look, when Kevin Durant left OKC, he was a free agent. He turned down $200 million to stay with the Warriors and join the Nets as a free agent. But this time, as Trey said, Kevin Durant's got 4 years and $200 million on that contract. So he doesn't have that same ability this time to just say, I'm joining whichever team I want. The Nets are going to have to make something work. So they're going to get some decent packages offered. They're going to get tons of decent packages offered to them because to simply match his contract at around $50 million a year, you're going to have to get, plenty of players close to making that number. And then the Nets are probably going to get draft assets as well. So for the Nets, it's like, okay, maybe they're going to get some good assets in return here. But the fact that Kevin Durant has chosen his destinations the last two times and still decided he's not happy there makes him now, I mean, where do we sort of rank him now? Where do we put him? Because he's gotten everything he's wanted and hasn't been able to be happy and be settled in two of the biggest cities, biggest basketball cities in the world as far as Golden State Warriors and New York with the Nets there. So now he's like, all right, get me somewhere else. And where's that destination that he's going to go to now and then be happy? So it's wild and it's kind of crazy. But I also think he looked at last season with Kyrie and it was like, he doesn't know what he's going to get out of Kyrie going forward. And who knows if Kyrie's going to be on the roster? Probably not. And James Harden got to the point where he's like, I want out of here too. And they get Ben Simmons in return, who obviously didn't play either. So maybe Kevin Durant just looked at that locker room and his team and he's like, I don't see us winning as we are right now. So I want to go to a different situation, a new situation again, and see if he can make something happen. As I say, though, the only difference is he doesn't have that ability to just go, okay, Miami, I'm signing with you, or the Lakers or whoever, because he hasn't got that freedom anymore because he's under contract.
Yeah. I debated, I guess, Trey, because I'm not sure which one it is. I assume we'll find out at some point on a podcast from Kevin Durant, which the reason was. But like, if this is linked to Kyrie at all, is it because he wants out of Brooklyn because he's tired of Kyrie the headache and the guy that he can't trust to be out there every game and is wishy-washy and that friendship is sort of broken? Or is it the opposite? That Kevin Durant, is pissed off with the Nets franchise for not like locking up Kyrie Irving and giving him the money, giving him the bag, and like there was all that little hang up. And he's like, well, screw this then. This was not part of the plan. And that's why he wants out. With Kyrie, I don't know. It could be either of these, I think. It could be something completely different for all we know. But it is insane that like he just signed this contract extension and he already wants out of there.
Yeah, if what Brian Windhorst is reporting that KD and Kyrie still want to play together in their next location, if that's true, even if it doesn't come to fruition that they get traded together, if it's true that they still want to play together, then it's definitely the latter, Skeets.
Right.
The Nets said, we were committed to you. And, I mean, like when you think back to Kyrie Irving's previous comments of how he's going to help run the franchise with KD and Sean Marks and Joe Tsai, that definitely changed. Obviously the Nets are out on that plan a little bit. So if the Nets are out on that plan, it feels like Kevin Durant is like, well, that was the plan. And if you're out on it, then I'm out on it. So I don't know. It seems to me that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are still close buddies. So I don't know. Maybe he sees the writing on the wall that Kyrie isn't going to be there long-term anyways. Like, he's going to be a Laker. If he's ain't a Laker for this season, he'll be a Laker for next season when his contract is over. No doubt about that. So maybe he sees that Kyrie's going to leave eventually. So he wants to get it out while he can. But I do think it is a little bit on the Nets saying, we can't commit to this team. We don't know how reliable this team is going to be. And that probably rankled Kevin Durant. So now he's gone.
In the end, if they don't play another game for Brooklyn, KD and Kyrie played 44 games together, Leigh, in 3 seasons. 44. Because of injury, because of vaccination rules in New York, because of a bunch of other things. That is just insane. I saw or heard somebody say, like, Nash and Kobe played more games together.
Wow, did they?
What? Yeah. It's like that weird, in one season, injury-riddled season there for the Lakers. But Leigh, have you fired up the trade machine at all? Have you got creative with Durant trade packages?
This is the thing. I mean, look, the hottest rumor I think out there at the moment is if the Phoenix Suns decide to move on from DeAndre Ayton and you use him in a side and trade, and you can throw in Mikal Bridges as well, and you're getting close to making the money work. There's still other things that have to happen there. But if you're the Brooklyn Nets, if that's the package that's on the table, I think that's probably where you start, because you're getting very, very good young players in return. But I can't see this being a 1-for-1 in terms of 2-team deal. I think this is going to be a 3, 4, maybe even a 5-team deal, simply, again, because he's got such a big contract. And if you're the Nets, you're like, we're obviously not taking pennies on the dollar right now. Now, look, the other thing is Kevin Durant at 33, he's only played 90 games himself in the last 3 seasons because of the Achilles injury and then the last 2 injury-riddled seasons there in Brooklyn at 33. Now, look, you're going to take him. Any team's going to take Kevin Durant if they can get him. But he also comes with a bit of an injury risk himself there. So I wonder if teams try to sort of play that angle there with the Nets. But ultimately, I can see Pat Riley getting involved. I just cannot see like a player of Kevin Durant's caliber being available and Pat Riley not having some finger in the pie. Daryl Morey's going to try to get involved as well. These sort of guys always like to be involved in the big trades. So I can see multiple teams, multiple player involved here. Exactly where he ends up, I'm not sure. But obviously, you would think, well, certainly for him, he wants to go to a team that is immediately contending. So that is a Phoenix Suns. That is a Miami Heat. There's no way I can realistically see him going to the Lakers. I mean, obviously the Russell Westbrook contract works, but that's not going to happen. The Lakers don't have other draft capital to throw in either. Anthony Davis's name has been thrown around.
Anthony Davis and Westbrook for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
Look, he's a clutch client, so I can't see Rich Paul saying, okay, yep, send Anthony Davis there to Brooklyn. So, there's not many teams that obviously can take. He's not going to the Warriors. He's I don't think so anyway. I mean, would they use Andrew Wiggins sign and trade him? I don't know. I don't think so. But again, there's not, none. I wouldn't be surprised. Who is a bit of a sleeper for me? It's the Raptors. I wouldn't be surprised if Masai Ujiri gets involved, because he's made a big move in the past. He got Kawhi Leonard. I don't think he would keep anybody out of a trade if it meant getting Kevin Durant, including Siakam. I think if they say, give us Siakam, and, there's obviously going to have to be other guys as well, but he's got a big contract that gets close to Kevin Durant, some other draft picks.
Siakam, OG, bunch of draft capital. Yeah. Or Fred VanVleet, OG, a bunch of draft capital.
Right. So
I think Masai, the one guy he might not lean into, and maybe he does include him, is Scotty. Scotty Barnes. Yeah. That's the one question mark, but yeah.
I mean, you have to keep one of those guys, I think, in order to make it so they're still competitive. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Raptors get involved. And I don't think Kevin Durant would be completely against the move to Toronto either. So
how can you tell? How do you know with this guy? Seriously, he's happy one day, he's not the next.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the crapshoot. I mean, you're right. I mean, everybody's just always left wondering, what the hell does this guy want?
Yeah.
And what will make him happy? And will he ever be happy? And it's, that's just his personality, I think, is a part of it. But look, you can go through all the teams, Leigh. If you're the Heat, are you even offering Jimmy Butler in some sort of deal? If you're the Lakers, are you offering Anthony Davis? You said that. If you're the Clippers, are you offering Paul George? If you're the Celtics, are you offering Jaylen Brown? If you're the Jazz, are you offering Donovan Mitchell? Like all these, you go through basically 90% of the league, take the best player on the team or the second best player, and it's like you're going probably, maybe, yes. In some cases, it's a quick yes. So.
I think I like the Jimmy Butler one. I think they would do that. The Heat. I think they would, if that's what it cost them. I think they would do Jimmy Butler.
Right.
But
because they can't do Bam.
No.
If Ben Simmons is still there.
That's right. I mean, and that's the other thing is because of the certain, different contracts on different teams, certain players just cannot be moved. So, but it's wow, where he ends up, it's just going to be wild and how that deal gets done because it's just going to be so complex and so much fun.
Trey, do you have a favorite trade or two for Kevin Durant? A realistic
Of course, Skeets. The Chicago Bulls. Ever since Kevin Durant wore that Tony Kukoc jersey in the summer, he has been an ultimate pipe dream for the Bulls, and they can get Kevin Durant for some serious bag of beans contracts out there. So that's the only time I was hitting up the trade machine. I think it's going to be Phoenix. First and foremost, they finished with the best record in the league this year, so KD's loving that. Then they've also got a bunch of picks they can ship out, not to mention solid players in Bridges and Ayton. It's no surprise that the Suns are near the top of the list. He apparently has a ton of respect with Booker. They obviously played together on Team USA. He's close to Monty Williams as well. I was playing pickup ball this morning. All the chatter was about Kevin Durant. And to me, that seems like the most logical place is the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah. So, okay, if you're Phoenix, Trey, Ayton, Bridges, obviously all the picks, like the swaps and stuff like that, be it 4 or 5 years, probably we're looking at here.
Sure.
You're doing that. Yeah. So
in
you're
a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Yeah. Especially because I think the Western Conference is going to be pretty winnable. Like the Warriors kind of seized the spotlight there in the playoffs. They came in with not the greatest record during the season. We're going to talk about the Grizzlies have a major injury that they're going to be dealing with coming forward here a little bit. The Mavericks took a little bit of a step back. The Suns were already a 64-win team. You add Kevin Durant to that team, you should be the championship favorite. I mean, wherever Kevin Durant goes, if he's going on a good team, they're probably the championship favorite next year.
Yeah. Is there anything, Leigh, that, from the Sun side of things that you take a second and go, how about Cam Johnson instead of Bridges? I mean, of course they're going to try that. And then the Nets, you've already seen reports of the Nets saying, well, we're not doing any trade with you unless Booker's in it. And then they push back. And that's how that's sort of how you get to probably Bridges, if we're being honest. Ayton, Bridges, and then a bunch of picks. There's some complications, too. I saw Hollinger writing about this.
Yeah.
With the Nets over the tax line and that Ayton's like a base year compensation guy. And it's difficult, but it's not impossible. There probably third teams need to be involved. Other players need to be involved just to make the books work. But what do you think, Leigh?
Well, obviously Ayton, they're prepared to move on from him. I think that's pretty obvious. It's just whether or not they look. Bridges had a great season. Defensive. He was in the all defensive team. He's improving a lot. He's a big part of what they've been these last few years. But he's not Kevin Durant, so you have to take the opportunity to sign Kevin Durant or to add Kevin Durant if you can. Because he immediately improves them. I mean, him and Booker and Chris Paul. I mean, again, they're older, Chris Paul and Kevin Durant, but if they're on the court, I mean, that's just a very, very tough team to defend against. So, yeah, if you're the Phoenix Suns, you can't let an opportunity like this go by if it means just holding on to Mikal Bridges. As great as he's been, that's just the price you have to pay. So, I think they would do it. Will they do it? That's the thing. Will they actually go ahead and grab him? I mean, who knows? But it's just weird that Kevin Durant's in this situation, man. I mean, like I say, he turned down $200 million from the Warriors. He may have 3 championships, maybe 4 if he stayed there. But I guess he felt that he wanted to go and sort of shrug that tag that he was, he was piggybacking off Steph and the Warriors. I mean, he's got 2 finals MVPs. He's a legit champ. There's no real asterisk there with him. But I think he just felt he needed that. He got what he wanted in Brooklyn. He got superstar talent around him in James Harden, and Kyrie was there. They did everything they can. I mean, Sean Marks and Joe Tsai did a fantastic job in putting all that talent together. It just didn't work. But that's what teams want, is like, we want those all NBA Hall of Fame talents together. But it just didn't work out on the court.
Yeah. Well, he really only has himself to blame, does he not? He picked his superstar teammates. He picked this damn coach. And I'm sure he had others say in the rest of the roster.
And that's the interesting thing.
When they got swept in the first round.
What does Steve Nash just say? Yeah, done. I'm done too.
Well, who knows?
Haven't heard much from Steve this summer.
No. I mean, I'm I'm interested to see if we hear from the Sean Marks and Steve and this front office there in Brooklyn. Crazy. Another team that people are trying to like make happen. Get KD to Memphis. Could they do something with Jaren Jackson Jr., though we just found out he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. We'll get to that later in the show. Desmond Bane, they have Brooks, they have Clark, they have all their picks. There's a package there you can maybe talk yourself into. But I'm sort of with you, Trey. Like, the more I've thought about this after the immediate reaction yesterday, there's no rush. You're Brooklyn. And could you salvage this? Could, the reports are out there that he wants to be moved, but like the Kobe situation back in the day, could he still be on your team come training camp because of other moves you've made, conversations you've had, whatever? I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, though. In today's game, like when a superstar of his magnitude sort of like says, get me out of here, like you're better to usually sort of like, all right, just rip the Band-Aid off and get a good deal back, probably.
Yeah, I think it's wishful thinking that the Nets would
Probably.
actually kind of fight back on this one, but there's no doubt that the owners are going to fight back on this kind of stuff when it comes lockout time again. So these sort of situations eventually lead to lockouts, unfortunately. I'm not backing the owners on this one at all. I think it's great that players actually get to choose where they want to play and make their moves, but this is the stuff that owners really want to fight about, when they sign a player who's supposed to completely change their franchise, and he does for the worst.
Yeah, and it's like you can sign 1-and-1 deals like you've done before, like LeBron, of course, has done time and time again, to put pressure on the organization to keep staying fresh, keep making moves around the edges, stay competitive, all that. But if you elect to sign long term, you're committing to a team here for at least a couple of years. And he's in theory doing the opposite if these reports are true. And can they salvage this? Who knows? And will there be a mystery team, Leigh? I know the Suns are at the top of everybody's list. The Pelicans are a hot team. They just signed Zion to their massive contract extension. Could Ingram be the big piece coming back? Yeah. Celtics have been really quiet here at the start of free agency. Are they deciding what to do? Are they trying to get involved in this? But there's always with one of these things team out of nowhere. Maybe putting together an even better deal. I don't know who that is, but maybe it's out there.
Was it Mo Bamba who tweeted out a picture of him and KD in Orlando?
Banchero.
Banchero. Yeah. Yeah, so maybe that's it. But look, ultimately, at the end of the day, let's say the Nets decide, okay, you know what? We're going to try to trade everyone, and all we want is all the draft capital in the world. Then they have no... they don't have to send Kevin Durant to a good team. If the best offer comes from an Orlando Magic, and that's what
of course
the Nets want, let's send him wherever they want. I mean, why would they need to appease him at this point? It's if he wants out, they gave him the contract. He has to go wherever they send him. So
yeah, but on the other hand, the team trading for Kevin Durant has to have some faith in Kevin Durant not pouting and playing and suddenly wanting to be moved. So,
but again, as a equation. With the contract that he's got, at least they control the asset of that. So it's going to Orlando, but
okay,
you just
are you freezing? Okay, is he only freezing for me or Trey as well?
No, I'm just playing it cool.
Okay, me too. I was, but then it went for a while. Okay, I think I understood what you said there, Leigh.
Yeah.
Let's hear everybody's best Kevin Durant trade packages. That's all everybody cares about. Just how do you get him to your team? That's the ultimate move. I will say this, Trey, remove the Bulls, because of course you would want Kevin Durant. We'll remove the Raptors. Of course I'd want Kevin Durant. If you had to pick any other team, just purely from a this would be fun for the league, just fun for the casuals and the diehards alike, and we'd be talking about it all the time, it would just be crazy. Which team, if you could get them to, would you want to see Kevin Durant on next season?
OKC Thunder,
I
think is the only thing that actually helps Kevin Durant's reputation. If he goes back to OKC, plays with some of the young guys there, maybe they go with the ultra thin towers, KD, Poku, and Chet all together. 600 pounds of man in your front court, and that's it. That would be the most interesting to me, because joining one of the top seeds in either conference, not very interesting. Joining the Philadelphia 76ers, who have two current MVP, or one MVP player, one second place MVP player, then adding Kevin Durant, that's not interesting to me. Everything else seems completely far-fetched. Obviously, the Thunder is far-fetched, but it would be cool to see.
Yeah, Leigh, you got pumped about that idea.
Well, because I was thinking, I wonder if anyone will say that. It'd be just hilarious if he did end up going back there to OKC and they start winning again and everyone falls back in love with Kevin Durant. They obviously have all the assets. Sam Presti could cash in a ton of those to give those back to Brooklyn. But it wouldn't, I don't think that's going to happen. I am a little bit intrigued by the Pelicans, though. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make something happen because they got CJ McCollum. Obviously it would cost them Ingram, I think, at a minimum. But that would be they had a good end to the season last season. So, if Dave Griffin can get involved, I think he would.
My only other thought on this is, and I know I'm not the first to make this point, but I do love back to the Suns possibly trading for him. KD's had a lot of beef with Charles Barkley. He's been called a bus rider by Barkley. So there is something interesting to me about if Kevin Durant would go to Barkley's old team. Barkley, of course, taking the Suns to the finals, couldn't get over the hump past Jordan's Bulls there. But if KD could do that, that would be pretty damn funny. Going to the desert there and shutting up Chuck that way. But let's hear everybody's reason where you want KD and why. Let us know in the stream team. Let us know in the YouTube comments. Tweet at us at NoDunkSync. Okay, are we? Should we just move on from Durant at this point? I already did basically 30 minutes. We'll be talking about him every single podcast until he gets moved, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, you said it was sort of boring, Trey, and maybe that's true. Though there was a lot of we had nearly 20 guys signing with new teams. We had 20 plus guys signing with their old teams, and we had all these massive supermax contract extensions. So there is some stuff to break down here because, not the biggest names moving for sure, but there were some fun things. So my question, Leigh, you get us started here. Of all the deals from day one of free agency and even here into day two, I guess what was the big one today? Ricky Rubio signing a 3-year, $18 million deal to go back to the Cavaliers. Which one was the biggest steal to you from free agency so far?
Well, look, I don't think it's a steal when you re-sign your own guy, but I think Anthony Simons at 4 years and $100 million is going to look very, very cheap in the coming years. He improved a lot this season. I thought he really took a step up there for the Portland Trailblazers. So they get him on what I think is a pretty moderate contract for a guy who's a guy they drafted and have developed, and he's shown to be quite good. It's tough to know exactly what his market value was, and certainly he wanted to stay there. But I think, with the salary cap increasing, we've got a new TV deal in the works as well. You're going to see that the end of that contract, it's that's pretty cheap for a guy if he continues to improve it. Now, look, he doesn't do a ton outside of shooting the ball and scoring. He needs to improve his assists and his rebounds and even his defense there. But I think you saw last season, he did take a really big step up. So he's going to get more minutes. He's going to get more opportunity. They're going to expect a lot more of him. So if he can make those incremental improvements in the other parts of his game, I think $25 million for a young girl like that is basically a gift for the Blazers. Exactly what they're doing and what direction they're going in, still trying to figure it out a little bit, but it certainly seems like they're intent on keeping Dame and trying to build around him and still, surround him with better supporting players and make a run for it with him still. So I think getting Anthony Simons at 4 and 100 is a pretty nice day for the Blazers.
Yeah, the other move the Blazers made was stealing Gary Payton II from the Warriors, the champion Gary Payton II from the Warriors for 3 years, $28 million. So he got a nice little payday there. And we thought the Warriors, that was the one guy they would be very high to keep. But at a certain point, even Trey, they were like, God, I mean, that's going to cost us $28 million. That's going to cost us times 3, basically. So Portland, congratulations. You got GP. So yeah, they keep Simons and they got GP. But what about you, Trey?
See, I go the other way on Simons. I think it leans more towards an overpay than a steal in my book. Because when I saw that number come down, if I'm a Knicks fan, I'm like, $104 million for Jalen Brunson, we're laughing. Who cares? That's just the going rate for a good starting young point guard, because Simons has 1 year of real success. It was during a tanking season with Damian Lillard out. I think it's a good bet for the Blazers. He should improve. He's a little bit younger, obviously, than Brunson, but your team is going to look very similar, I think, to a Lillard and McCollum backcourt with a Lillard and Simons backcourt. So we shall see how it goes, but I still think a pretty smart move for the Blazers to bring him in. I think it just makes the Jalen Brunson deal look a whole lot better. As for the biggest actual steal for me on day one, Kyle Anderson going to the Timberwolves, 2 years, $18 million. just a perfect fit for them. He plays defense. He moves the ball. He doesn't really need the ball. He's got some savvy. He's got some smarts. It'd be nice if he had a better outside jumper, no doubt about it. But the Timberwolves have some solid shooters. He'll probably be playing a lot next to Karl Anthony Towns, who stretches the floor. Anthony Edwards can stretch the floor. So maybe there's some space for Kyle Anderson to put the ball on the floor and get to the hoop with his slow motion drives. I think he'll be probably the best forward they've got on the roster right now. And it's a little bit of a change of pace from a guy like Jaden McDaniels or Jared Vanderbilt, who are playing at a higher tempo, no doubt about it. So Anderson, to me, a great spot starter, a great guy coming off the bench. He just fits in perfectly everywhere.
Yeah, and I heard Rob Mahoney saying the Wolves strike first in the battle between the Wolves and the Grizzlies, stealing one of their guys because, they had a great little playoff series there. I like that one as well. I think he's going to be a great fit in Minnesota. Anyone else, Leigh? I mean, we got there's a giant list. So if there's anybody else you want to touch on here, now's the time.
Yeah, again, there wasn't that one player that you thought, well, he's really going to move the needle for that team either way.
Well, what's your thoughts on Brunson? Because Trey and I have already weighed in on it. We're high on it. We love it. And like Trey said, in the end, 4 years, $104 million. I mean, even lower than I actually thought it was ultimately going to be.
Yeah.
So I like it. I know some people are questioning it. Oh, is he ever even going to be an all-star? How's he fit with Randall and RJ and all that? Look, we'll find out. I think he's exactly what Tibbs likes in a point guard for sure. A little pick and roll action here. Let's go to work. But what do you think about Brunson signing there?
Look, he's a steady player. He's an improvement. They tried with Kemba last season, and it was okay, that seemed to be an upgrade at point guard. But of course, defensively, he really struggled, and he couldn't even stay on the floor himself towards the end of the season when they effectively released him. So Brunson is an improvement there. And Brunson, I think, looked at his situation, I guess, in Dallas, and he was always going to be behind Luka. And maybe he wanted a bigger role and he wanted a bigger opportunity. So he's certainly gotten what he's wanted in that sense. He's got the big payday. He had a fantastic first round playoff series. He slowed down a little bit after that. He's a good player. He's you hope he turns into a lot more than what he just showed this season. You hope he really does grow and become much, much better. But how much more growth has he got? I can't see him being, a 25 point per game guy. I think he sort of taps out at around sort of 18 to 19 a game. But he should be at least a good decision maker for them. That's the one thing I like about his game is that he never seems to be too rushed. He seems to be able to, make the right pass. He doesn't seem to make silly, sloppy, careless turnovers all the time. If he can improve his shooting and continue to knock down, big shots like he did hit for the Mavs again, certainly in that first round series, he's going to be good. But he also has to understand that in Dallas, he was kind of protected a little bit too, that the expectations on him weren't as high as they're going to be in New York. And we know the Knicks, they're celebrating right now. They made the big move, the big splash in free agency. But if things start off rough and he has a rough season, he can't handle the pressure and the spotlight of being in a much bigger role on a team with much higher expectations or much more pressure, I should say. It's going to be could backfire on him. So I think they had to make this move, though. The Knicks, I think it was okay, a player like his caliber, go out and get him. That's what it costs him. The Mavs were going to pay him more or less the same, but he chose the bigger role and the bigger opportunity in New York. Now he has to go out there and deliver. And can he get up to an all-star level? I'm not convinced, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see in the next season or so. But the Knicks had to make the move. He wanted a bigger role and bigger opportunity, so they both kind of got what they wanted.
Yeah, the Knicks are hoping he is on honestly, the Kyle Lowry / Van Vliet sort of trajectory, right? Where Lowry coming obviously to Toronto turned into a perennial all-star. They're going to hope that is the case with Brunson. I've compared him to Van Vliet. He obviously makes an all-star team there for the first time recently. So I like it. I just love the idea of pairing him with RJ Barrett too for his growth. I think that's good as well. Trey, any other just little thumbs up that you want to show some love to? A nice little steal here or there?
Here's a couple little tiny thumbs up
tiny
for
thumbs?
you, Skeets. Okay. Yeah, I think the Sixers are doing a really good job. They're basically just trying to turn into the Rockets, but I think it's going to work out. PJ Tucker, 3 for $33 million. Danuel House, 2 for $8.5 million. And then obviously James Harden has taken a little bit less per year, and they traded for DeAnthony Melton. They've got better wing depth. They've got more defense, and they've still got some moves that they could be making going further on here. So Sixers are doing a good job. And I actually like what the Bucks are doing because basically they said, we won the championship. We were looking all right. And then our second best player got hurt in the playoffs. So we're just going to run it back. And maybe Joe Ingles will give us a little something come playoff time. Who knows exactly how recovered he'll be by then. I guess he suffered his injury during the middle of last season. So probably the goal for him is just get healthy for playoff time and be a reliable 3-point shooter. And if he's able to do that, a nice signing for the Bucks. But I thought it was pretty smart that they didn't panic and really overreact to anything. They brought back Portis. Pat Connaughton picked up his option. Wesley Matthews is back. Javon Carter is back. Yep. It's very different to like how the Lakers approach things. They won the championship in the bubble. Then they had problems the following season where they did run into injuries and they changed everything up and it didn't work. The Bucks are saying, hey, we got Giannis. We will be fine. Let's just run it back and hope everybody's healthy come playoff time.
Yeah, Leigh, any thoughts on your fellow Aussie man there, Joe Ingles, making his way to Milwaukee?
Well, that's right. I mean, he probably won't play until close to the playoffs, but he's a vet to have off the bench. I mean, he's a pretty good playoff player. Another guy who can run the offense and get under the skin of maybe the opposing star player. He did that, of course, effectively for the Jazz against the Thunder with Paul George. And he's got a bit of a reputation for that. But happy to Joe. I mean, because when he did his injury last year, it was funny, myself included, people saying, well, he's done, he's going to retire now. And Joe's like, I'm not retiring, guys. I still want to play. So there's absolutely no rush for him to get back. It's just get back 100% healthy, get some, hopefully he can get back around probably March, get maybe 15 games under his belt, and then be a bit of an insurance policy on the Bucks bench.
It's all vibes too with Joe Ingles, man.
Yeah.
Already adding him to a great team, great locker room in Milwaukee. Keeps it fresh. Got now a new jokester in here. Him and Giannis will be trading dad jokes, I'm sure, left and right. I like it. And then
they might trade Grayson Allen during the season as well, so the vibes could get even better.
That's right. That's right. And then hopefully he gets healthy, and it's like, hey Joe, can you win us a quarter? Can you win us a half of a playoff game? That's all we really need. And maybe it's a possibility. But yeah, like Trey said, they really just locked up their guys. I know one of them you wanted back on your team, Bobby Portis, but like 4 years, $49 million. They said, nope, here you go. And Wesley Matthews and Carter, like you said, as well. Okay, let's flip this on its head now. What was the biggest overpay on day one? Trey, you get us started here.
Most sticker shock for me was definitely Simon's $100 million deal, because I just always flash back to like Juwan Howard in the first $100 million deal, but that was many moons ago, Skeets. Yeah. Many moons. But biggest overpay for me, I'm sorry, it's got to be Lou Dort. 5 years, $87.5 million. And the Thunder could have just had him for like $1.9 million going into this season. I don't know who they were bidding against, but I think you like Lou Dort a lot better at $2 million than you like him at $17 million. The potential is there for this to turn into a Kent Bazemore contract, I think, where you're like, we had to sign him. He's a good defensive player, and he's maybe giving it all back offensively with the problems that you're having. I know Dort scored a whole bunch of points.
He's gotten better. Yeah.
He has gotten more opportunity, I would say. He's still barely a 40% shooter from the field. Maybe he's approaching league average from three, but this just seems like a crazy contract for a guy who is at best like an all-defense first team, and you hope he can actually play in the playoffs if the Thunder ever try to make the playoffs again.
Yeah, 5 years, $87.5 million, Leigh, for Dort. He was on possibly the league's best contract, where he was getting, like Trey said, like under $2 million, and does contribute, obviously on one end more than the other, but he gets paid. Good old Canadian boy. Montreal boys got paid yesterday with Boucher and him. Yeah. But what do you think?
Well, he's 17 points a game he averaged last season, but again, it was on the sort of tanking Thunder, so I'm not sure how much value you can take out of that. But look, he works hard defensively. He gives everything he's got there. I expect him to take more steps and improve more. But I also sort of think this might have been Sam Presti maybe saying, listen, this is a nice contract asset to have where we can throw this guy in now to deals. He couldn't really throw him into other deals. And for next season, again, $1.9 million, you're basically paying for free in the NBA at that rate. So I wonder if, Presti's like, let's just have this contract on the books here in case we need to make another move. But, look, Dort was undrafted. He's worked and scrapped for everything he's got, and now he gets paid. So good on him.
What about you, Leigh? Overpays from day one.
Well, Marvin Bagley's an interesting one. He got 3 years and around $40 million there from the Pistons. Now, he enjoyed his time there in Detroit. Is he even worth that much right now? About 13 million a season. I mean,
you rounded up quite a bit there. You gave him $2.5 million more than he got, but yeah, 3 years, 37.5. It caught me by surprise too.
Yeah, I mean,
37 there.
Look, honestly, Chris Boucher got more or less the same deal. I think Boucher earned his way more than I thought Bagley did in his time in Detroit. But I think Detroit, look, they traded for him. I think they only gave up a couple of second-round picks. Maybe they're like same sort of thing. This guy with a bit more time, bit more opportunity here. I like what Detroit's done so far in the offseason. They're like, we're not committing ourselves to, this is not 3 years and 80 million or anything crazy like that. This is a nice, again, it's a contract where we think this guy just enjoyed his time here. He's more settled in Detroit. He didn't like being in Sacramento. Maybe this will turn into a steal. I'm not sure. It's because
they're giving him $37 million because he had a good time in Detroit. He loves Jets pizza so much they're paying him $37 million.
Look, I think they just hope that he can. They also signed Kevin Knox for 2 years and $6 million. I thought that was a little overpay. I thought, how did Kevin Knox earn $6 million? He didn't even play for anybody. But look, the Pistons. Again, they traded for this guy. Maybe they're just like, we can keep this guy without necessarily, sabotaging our books down the road. But also, he was signed very early. It's like, was there a huge market out there for Marvin Bagley? Not sure. Right. But anyway, well done to the Pistons overall.
Yeah, he played. I mean, Bagley didn't even play 20 games for them. But yeah, he was fine. I mean, when he gets a bit of an opportunity, at least he puts up numbers. This is the weird thing with Bagley, right? Yeah. He's like, 16-8. Thanks, Bagley. But yeah, he got a bit of a nice deal here. But all of these deals, I think, like we're saying, even the overpay, outside of like your opinion on Simons, which is true because that one's like a $25 million deal, or Brunson as well. Like if you're not that high on him, really, even the Dort one, when you break it down, could be because it's 5 years. Like nobody's getting like so far at least like over 20 million, you know what I mean? Like we're in like a lot of 10 million to 15 million type deals here, or if not lower than that. There's like a lot of 8 million per year type of deals going. A lot of feels like there was a lot of 2 year 16 million type deals being kicked around yesterday. So even these ones we say overpay, it's like you're not torpedoing your books and guess what? They could be traded later. But yeah, some surprising ones. Any others, Trey, or that you're like, not even overpays, but maybe just shocked you a little bit? You're like, oh, he's either that person stayed with this team, went somewhere, and for that money.
I thought Mo Bamba was Gamba.
Me
Bamba
too.
Back to the Magic. I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I feel crazy, Skeets, where I'm like devoting so much of my life to like looking at Mo Bamba and Isaiah Hartenstein stats. I'm like, ooh, Hartenstein, this is a huge pickup. The guy's a backup center. Who cares?
Yeah.
He's really a backup center, but good for him. But I did think Mo Bamba was gone. It seemed like the writing was on the wall that he was going to be going somewhere else, especially, the Magic drafted another big guy, Wendell Carter Jr., obviously farther along as a prospect than Mo Bamba, but he had his best season of his career last year. So run it back, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I would add to that too, even just the Magic re-signing Gary Harris for 2 for 26. Sure. And yeah, you said Mo Bamba for 2 for 21. It was more just surprising. You're right. In your head, you're like, feels like these guys are gone. I guess, of course, will they be included in trades down the line? So definitely possible. But yeah, those ones were a little shocking. Like those ones way more shocking than the Raptors bringing back guys on their bird rights in Thaddeus Young and Chris Boucher. Like that was like, they sort of did what the Bucks were sort of doing. Like, all right, we like our team, bring these guys back that are free agents. Let's go. Like do it basically in the first hour or two of free agency. But yeah, a little surprising there from the Magic. And then the Heat, Leigh, they brought back Oladipo, 1 year, $11 million. So like, that's going to be like a test year there for Oladipo. And the guy you're scared of, Dwayne Dedmon.
Yes.
Re-signed with the Heat, 2 years, $9 million. So very cheap deal there for Dedmon.
Yeah, a little surprised that Dedmon got the second year. Look, he's a Band-Aid solution. He goes out there and plays a few mop-up minutes when they need him. He's fine. Oladipo, yeah, I think they look at him and think he's not a bad guy just to have deep on our roster. He had some good moments, certainly in the playoffs there, but he's certainly no longer that all-star talent. So you get a guy like that for $11 million. I thought, look, the Mavericks, one of the things that they needed was some interior help, and they got obviously Christian Wood firstly, and then they signed JaVale for 3 years and $20 million yesterday. I thought, look, JaVale's become a pretty handy vet. 3 years and 20 million. Again, that's 7 million a year. That's not going to hurt you too much if you do need to move on. But they just made an improvement. They upgraded in their at least interior presence. So, good on JaVale for picking that up, because again, JaVale was out of the league. Like, it's probably now 7 or 8 years ago where he was done. And instead he's turned himself into a pretty reliable veteran still getting paid. So good on it to him.
Trey, let me get your thoughts on what the Lakers did in day one of free agency. Now, I know they're trading for Kyrie and KD coming up here, but they signed Lonnie Walker IV to a 1-year, $6.5 million deal. They signed Juan Toscano Anderson from the Warriors for a 1 year, I think it was a vet's minimum. Again, he's going to LA. Troy Brown Jr., same deal, 1 year, vet's minimum contract. And then Damian Jones, 2 years he signed. I'm not sure the actual numbers on that one, but the Lakers getting Walker IV, JTA, Troy Brown Jr., and Damian Jones. And Malik Monk is gone. He's off to the Kings there for 2 years, 16. What do you think?
I think that's 4 fine rolls of the dice for the Lakers. Like, if two of these 4 hit, that's good. My guess would be the 2 most likely to hit would be Lonnie Walker and Juan Toscano Anderson. I like that they focused more on young athletic players who compete defensively than they did last season, when it was like, let's see who we can get from the 2010 Eastern Conference All-Star team. So I think that is smart, but I'm not expecting much contribution from any of the 4 of these guys. But it would be nice to see Lonnie Walker IV have a similar breakout season in LA that Malik Monk had. It's basically the same bet that the Lakers are making as they did when they signed Monk as a free agent last year. You can score with the ball in your hands. You're an athlete. You can get out in transition. That should pair nicely with LeBron. It worked out for Malik Monk. We'll see if it works out for Lonnie Walker.
And Leigh, just going through the rest of the list here, sort of touching almost on everything. Jayshawn Tate, he re-signed with the Rockets, 3 years, $22.1 million deal. I think that's actually really, really nice deal for the Rockets. Nick Claxton re-signs with the Nets, 2 years, $20 million. Patty Mills re-signs with the Nets for 2 years, $14.5 million. And then you have the Clippers bringing back a lot of their guys, Zubats, Batum, Coffee, and then Tyus Jones re-signed with the Grizzlies, 2 years, $30 million. So he had a nice little payday there for Tyus Jones as a really, what I've called one of the best backup point guards in the league. That guy's never going to hurt you, but he gets a nice little contract there.
I think that's a fantastic contract there for the Grizzlies. I think he was excellent for them. And I've just seen as well, Mitchell Robinson signed 4 years and 60, re-signed there with the Knicks. That's just coming through.
Okay.
Yeah. So look, that's fine. That's a fine contract. Mitchell Robinson should be better. He should be earning more. He should be on the floor more. I think he's a very impactful player, but he can't stay on the floor. And he's injured a lot, and he struggles to finish his game. So I think the Knicks have been like, we don't want to let this guy go. They did sign Hartenstein as a sort of, extra help there. But Mitchell Robinson should be better than he is. So I think this is not a bad contract either way. The Knicks don't kill themselves, and Mitchell Robinson's still got time here to fulfill that talent that I think he has. Just hasn't been able to sort of be consistent with it so far.
And finally, Trey, got to get your opinion on Big Beef. Andre Drummond going to your Bulls for 2 years, I believe $6.6 million deal. That's all Chicago's really done so far.
Yeah, that's all they've done. Where's my Zach LaVine news? I feel like I was watching Nick Vucevic play in Memphis. Do something! So Zach Harper gave this a C+ for Chicago, and I think that's exactly right. Andre Drummond is better than Tristan Thompson. But if Andre Drummond and potentially Danilo Gallinari are the only moves this offseason, I'm going to be a sad boy.
Okay. Yes. Well, hey, look, it was only day one. We're only into day 2 here of free agency. Zach LaVine's going to take his time, and the Bulls are, who knows? Yeah, they're just getting ready for the big Kevin Durant trade for all we know. The final question here when it comes to free agency is like the most intriguing free agent, I guess, trade target left on the board. We're going to take KD off out of this equation here. Who is it? And I can give you a list of names to some of you, to you guys here and everybody joining us in the stream team here, and tell me if one of them really piques your interest. I think the biggest name sort of remaining in no particular order here, TJ Warren is still out there. Pacers have his bird rights. We got Thomas Bryant on the Wizards. You got 2 Martins. Martin. You got Caleb on the Heat. You got Cody on the Hornets. Dante DiVincenzo, Serge Ibaka, Jeremy Lamb, Otto Porter Jr., Rubio. You can cross him off the list. He is going back to Cleveland. Montrezl Harrell Ed Davis, Austin Rivers. I mean, Derek Jones Jr., Bruce Brown. Okay.
Bruce Brown to the Nuggets was
Oh, is
a
this
recent signing since we
okay.
started. Yep.
Okay. Oh, wow. To the Nuggets. Oh, all right.
2 years, $13 million.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm not angry with that. That's a nice pickup there from Denver. Yeah, there's Robin Lopez, Bryn Forbes, Bielitsa, anyone Leigh like sort of left out there that you're like, or trade targets, bigger names, Brady and stuff like that. What do you think?
Well, look, I think Otto Porter's, probably going to get a nice little payday here. I thought he was pretty handy for the Warriors, and he may even return to Golden State, considering they've lost so many of their other role players, as we've mentioned there. Toscano Anderson gone, Gary Payton's gone.
They still got to sign Looney if they're keeping him.
That's right. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to sort of keep him, because they do need to restock. And he just played that role very well. I mean, he started a couple of games there in the finals as well. Otto Porter didn't do all that much, but you just know it's not bad to have a guy, and he's only 28 somehow still. So, he's still got a bit left in the tank there. But those other guys you mentioned, no one really is like sort of, I
think TJ Warren, if he can bounce back from injury,
when was the last time
can
he
help
played?
a team. Oh, it's been a while. He's a bubble. Since the bubble.
Really. I remember he made my first bubble team of the week, down there. He was
killing
his ball in for sure.
Yeah. That's nearly 2 years ago. So, he's fallen out. And then Jimmy Butler wanted to fight him. Maybe that was it. That was the end of his peak there. So, but yeah, I mean, look, someone like Bryn Forbes is going to go somewhere. He's not a bad backup to have, but no one's breaking the bank for Bryn.
What about as sort of like a trade target? I mean, it's been coming up time and time again. Like, will it ever happen? Eric Gordon.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
it's going to shock you. It's going to shock you, Skeets. The Sixers have been rumored to be interested in Eric Gordon.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that a former Houston Rocket could go to the Philadelphia 76ers.
I mean,
he's a good trade target. I feel like we're going to have to wait, though. I think we're waiting on some of these big trades until we figure out what's going on with Kevin Durant. Then we'll move on to if DeAndre Ayton is involved in that trade, he's in the mix. And then we're moving on to Gobert or Ayton is like the next guy to figure out after that. And then we'll probably start figuring out the rest of free agency. Another name that I haven't heard much about, Colin Sexton. It's an interesting thing to see what the Cavs are going to do, since they actually have his restricted free agency rights, so they can match whatever they want. But he's coming off an injury, still a solid 20-point per game scorer who, if you are, a team that's trying to scratch into the play-in tournament, maybe you want to try and acquire Colin Sexton. We'll see what happens.
And then the other team with two big potential guys that they can move are the Pacers, Leigh, in Malcolm Brogdon and Miles Turner. Those are, those were hot rumors there for felt like a week or so, and then it's sort of gone quiet again on these guys.
Yeah, definitely Malcolm Brogdon. It seemed like he was virtually out the door there. The Knicks obviously were big on him, but once they got Jalen Brunson, I guess their interest died off. I still think they will move on from certainly one of those guys. They made the move last season, of course, getting rid of Sabonis, getting Halliburton. I think that's the direction they're going in. So,
are the Raptors? I mean, who knows with the KD whole thing? Yeah. Like, is Masai really going to try and take a shot at that? But say that's not realistic. Are the Raptors trying to put together a deal for one of these three centers that we're talking about in Ayton, in Gobert, or in Miles Turner? I mean, it's possible.
Oh, I think there's no question that Masai Ujiri wants to improve in that area. You can't just have 6-7 guys across the board, which he has had. Exactly which one he'll get and which one he thinks is the best fit is tough. But Masai Ujiri, I just believe, as we saw with the Kawhi Leonard deal, he's going to get in there and make a move, and he will not be afraid to trade one of those big names. He won't fall in love with anyone too much if that's what it takes to get that bigger name coming back. It's just whether or not do you believe DeAndre Ayton is he going to develop and improve, or is he sort of already at where he is right now, which is a good player, but I've made the reference before, he's a bit of a Ben Simmons, that the numbers haven't really improved since that rookie season. They've been more or less stagnant. So, do you want then in that case, do you want a Miles Turner? Not a great defensive player. I mean, he blocks shots, but he still gets beaten a lot, but he spreads the floor a little bit, more of a modern big. And then the Rudy Gobert, fantastic defensively. Can you unlock him a little bit more or utilize him a little bit better on the offensive end? So something will happen in Toronto. I don't know. Maybe I'm just here. Maybe it's in the air, but I feel the Raptors are going to make a move. I think something pretty medium to big is going to happen in Toronto.
All right, medium to big.
Yeah.
We're also like
size-wise, I think. Yeah.
We're trying to figure out like I really want to know what the Jazz are doing here. They move Royce O'Neal. They get a first round pick. It's probably going to be a little bit later in the first round, but they get that back from. That's not bad. And we all expect them to like quote unquote blow it up. At least move one of their big names. Do they really lean into to a tank year and like try their chances at getting one of those big names in the draft? I think it's possibly in play. What does this mean for Conley? Could somebody go get Conley? You want like a vet point guard, like help, you're really, really close. You think you're like close to a championship. Could you get him? So we'll see. And, but this probably all starts and ends with the Nets and what they do with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Did have some contract extensions though. Let me chuck them at you here. Trey, we had some money. Had some money handed out to these superstars in the league. Jokic, 5-year, $264 million supermax contract extension with the Nuggets. Bradley Beal, he got his 5-year, $251 million supermax contract extension with the Wizards. And we had Booker and Towns both signing their max extensions with their teams respectively in the Suns and the Wolves. 4 years, $224 million. We had John Morant agreeing to his 5-year, $193 million designated rookie maximum extension with the Grizzlies, but that could become $231 million, just like Zion with the Pelicans. Same sort of deal there. So Jokic, Beal, Booker, Towns, John Morant, Zion, Trey. Any thoughts on any of these huge supermax contract extensions?
Biggest contract in NBA history goes to a guy who was drafted number 41 during a Taco Bell commercial. That's honestly incredible stuff that Jokic is getting this humongous of a deal. 5 years, $264 million. Woo! That's exactly the reason why the Nuggets have been shaving their salary cap, their luxury tax bill throughout the offseason. And I'm pretty interested to see how they continue to fill out this team around him, because obviously Jokic is in his prime. He's a back-to-back MVP. He's getting 2 stars back alongside him in Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. But as of now, the bench is pretty thin. I love that they picked up Bruce Brown because they needed somebody else off the bench, because otherwise you got Bones Highland. Jeff Green is still there. Who knows what Najee's going to give you. Devon Reed, they signed to a deal. Ish Smith, they've got a rookie in Brown, and they signed DeAndre Jordan for some reason. I feel like there's going to be a ton of pressure on Michael Porter Jr. to fulfill the promise that we've seen in his career. He was a bubble boy once upon a time, Leigh. He was an incredible player in the bubble, made the all-bubble team, got that big contract, and then missed the most of last season. But that Jokic contract is humongous. Obviously, you're paying him that contract, but you're also paying 2 big contracts to Murray and Michael Porter Jr. It can be tough to build a deep enough team to win a championship if you're paying 3 max contracts. And we will see how that plays out for a Nuggets team that hasn't been spending a ton right now. Jokic is good enough that they're going to be a top 3 or 4 team in the Western Conference, but there's a lot of pressure now on Murray to regain his form and Michael Porter Jr. to regain his form and honestly go even further, because after their top 3, things are pretty spotty in Denver.
Leigh, any thoughts on what Trey's talking about there with Denver or those other contract extensions?
Well, I'm glad that there was no hesitation at all from the Nuggets to throw the supermax there at because we talk about them a lot, Denver, where they do seem to be shaving money and cost cutting and things like that. But when it came to Jokic, it's like, no, give him the full bag and don't even have anyone going like, what are you doing, Denver? Why are you trying to cheap out on him? So they did that. I wonder if the Nuggets try to dangle the Michael Porter Jr. to the Nets and some draft capital there. I mean, that would be an interesting scenario. I mean, he's a young player. We know he's got the potential. Injury concern, of course, but that's maybe something that could at least get the conversation started. The other thing is the Bradley Beal extension. I mean, it's just a matter of time before Beal becomes disillusioned with the franchise and thinks, you know what, I think I want to move on to now. Surely, like, why? I mean, listen, he got his money. Fair enough. You know, don't begrudge anyone getting paid what they are, entitled to get paid there. But I cannot see Beal not at some point in the next season saying, you know, I changed my mind and I think it's time for me to seek a new home, a new opportunity here. Oh, just after I signed my contract extension. But
So you give it a year? Maybe a year or no? You just say no. You say this coming season we'll get the report that Beal's not happy with Porzingis and the direction of the franchise.
I think it's just a matter of time. I think before that ink is even dry on that contract, there's going to be rumors that Beal's like, I thought the franchise was going to do something different. I thought we were going to trade Kristaps Porzingis for Kevin Durant, but it didn't happen. So I don't know. It just seems to me that Beal, said all the right things in the last few days. He wants to be that one guy on the one team, but at what end? To what end? I mean, he's basically sacrificing. They may not even make the playoffs again, Washington, as they are right now.
Yeah,
I mean
that's a tough. Like all these other guys that we mentioned with those supermax, they're playoff teams.
Right.
Those are obviously very talented young players. The Beal is the one that's sort of like, whoa, makes you go, wow, is that guy a 5-year, $250 million player?
Yeah.
Hey, that's the real team for Kevin Durant to change the narrative about him.
Yeah.
His legacy. Go home, go to Washington, finally make it happen. Save that franchise. Then
KD
you're
to
back
DC.
Yeah.
You've heard of Mitch Richmond. Bradley Beal is Rich Mitchmond. Oh, my goodness. I will give the Wizards a tiny bit of credit here. They're going to be better next season. There's no doubt about it. They brought in Monte Morris. They brought in DeLon Wright. They're trying to corner the market on guys who have been called the best backup point guard in the league. Unfortunately, they couldn't get Tyus Jones.
No, I know.
So they've got better backcourt depth. They also drafted Johnny Davis. We'll see what he can do, but a lot of questions, no doubt, in the front court. Number one, is Porzingis going to be able to stay on the court? He performs when he does. Another bubble boy. We got to send those guys back to Orlando.
Yeah.
Just get all of them back there for the perfect setting. So you've got him, and then you've got questions with Kispert, with Denny Avdia, with Rui Hachimura. Like, are any of the three of those guys going to be players? If they pop a little this year, the Wizards could be looking at a 9th seed. Come on.
Playing.
Buddy.
Play-ins, baby.
I like this idea of the Orlando Magic should lean into just bringing the bubble boys back together. Like, just go get them all. Go get TJ Warren. Go get Michael Porter Jr.
It's a good idea.
Just build the team that was like balling out down there. It's something in that Florida weather. All right, let's call it there with day one of free agency. We tried to touch on basically all of the signings, either re-signing with teams or the little bit of movement. Let's hear from you. Who are the biggest steals, biggest overpays? What are your thoughts on the contract extensions? And of all the names left right now, which one intrigues you most? And of course, KD talk, Gobert talk, Brogdon, Turner, all that good stuff. In other news, though, I will throw this at you guys. I slipped it in there, but Grizzlies big man Jaren Jackson Jr. underwent surgery on Wednesday to address a stress fracture in his right foot. So he's expected to be sidelined for approximately 4 to 6 months. The team is very confident he's going to make a full recovery here, but this guy, Leigh, his first 2 seasons ended early, had knee injuries, and then he had that meniscus tear there, right? In the bubble. So the Magic will not be trading for him. That required surgery. But he stayed healthy last season. Played 78 games, but they're taking care of this stress fracture in the foot here.
Yeah, and he was awesome last season. I thought he was really
you were
impactful.
very, very high on Jackson.
Very high on him. So bummed that he's probably not going to be back, I guess, around Christmas at the sort of earliest, based on that 4 to 6 month timetable, which is still, you're still enough of the season there that he can get back and get into his full sort of routine and full swing by playoff time. But
you're not going to rush it after paying him and all that.
Well, no, and look, he got 4 years and $100 million. So, that was, probably part of it, that he has had some injury concerns. So you just hope that he can get over this, recover, and get back to being the player that he was last season. Because, there was some questions. Is he going to be the right guy alongside Ja Morant? He's not a banger of a big. He's more a finesse big. And but last season he really sort of broke out of his out of his own sort of shell there and became important for the Grizzlies. So they're going to miss him for sure.
Trey, any thoughts on Triple J there?
Yeah, foot injuries are terrible. You got to use your feet for everything when you're playing basketball. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is a huge dude from height and weight. So hopefully he's able to get his foot right and be back in time for the playoffs and looking okay. And that this isn't the sort of thing that lingers, because we've seen foot injuries derail careers time and time again. And that could be bad news bears for the Grizzlies. No bear pun intended. It's been a tough start, I think, to free agency and to the offseason for the Grizzlies, all things considered. Obviously, they got Ja on a huge deal. Got to do it. Smart move. but they lost Melton. They lost Kyle Anderson. Now we found out that Jaren Jackson Jr. isn't going to be playing. Good job saving it with Tyus Jones. But those three in Melton, Anderson, and Jaren Jackson Jr. are huge defensive players for the Grizzlies, which is really how they're able to score in transition. So I wonder what it's going to be like looking at their team next year, having to rely a little bit more as an offensive first team.
Yeah, we will see. Guys, email in your NBA questions to nodunks@theathletic.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok @NoDunksInc. Get yourself an Athletic subscription. Go to theathletic.com/nodunks so you can follow the live tracker when it comes to free agency. You know, they got their full recap of day one and then all the signings and trades and available players coming here up in day 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and so on. Leigh, how long are you in Canada for? What are you up to there?
Well, it's Canada Day today, eh?
Well, hey.
So I'm heading up to the Cokes today. The Cokes, Muskoka. Going to be out in a cottage.
No one calls it that.
I'm going to start a new trend. We're going to the Cokes. We'll be out there for the weekend and Monday, back on Tuesday, I think. Yeah. And then we're back in the studio Wednesday, Vegas Thursday. I think that's right.
That's right. We're also having a little get-together on Saturday, July 9th in Vegas around 7 p.m. at Starboard Tack. All right? It's called Starboard Tack. Okay? We're not doing a live show. There's no tickets you got to buy, nothing like that to worry about. You just got to get your ass, if you want to see us and have a drink, to Starboard Tack, July 9th in Vegas around 7 p.m. So hopefully we'll see you there if you're going out for Summer League. Can't believe that's starting soon. I can't believe it's July, if I'm being completely honest.
You want me to bring you back a little Timmy O's when I come back for you?
I'm fine. You can bring me back what I want. I think ketchup chips, I think, is usually at the top of my list.
Okay.
Maybe a coffee crisp. I could go for one of those right now.
Coffee crisp and some ketchup chips, eh? I'll get them for you.
All right. Great stuff. And Trey, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot to ask this off the top. The biggest free agency question probably on the board. Have you signed on the dotted line and brought in the 2012 Toyota Highlander hybrid? Has it happened?
Contracts are signed. The deal is done, but we're waiting to go through physicals. We have to do that after the moratorium period ends on July 5th. But I've gone into the archives. I've been looking for jerseys that say Kirby on the back, and I've been brainstorming ways to hang it from. I think what I got to do is like pop the windshield wipers up so they're kind of like sticking out. And
that's good.
Do it. My next question that people in the stream team could help me answer: how would you shake hands with a car? You know, I think I'm going like I'm going to grasp the side mirror as if it's a hand. Yeah. Hello. You know, like I'll be shaking. It'll be wearing the jersey. So stay tuned.
Yeah. Okay. When you do that photo, I like that. Shake the mirror, I think makes sense. Put a little hat though. Like put a hat on the car too.
Okay.
Like even if it's just a Bulls hat or something like that. Okay, great. I'm glad we figured that out. Yeah. All right. Let's call it there. That's an hour plus of free agency roundup, at least when it comes to day one, and a whole lot of KD talk. So guys, subscribe, like the video, and leave your boys a 5-star rating and review if you listen to the pod on Apple or Spotify. Who knows when we'll be back? Could be on the weekend, something big breaks. Otherwise, could be earlier next week. And at the very least, we will all be back in the factory come Wednesday. I think there's a new no breaks on Wednesday as well. Is that correct, Trey?
Is it Wednesday? I'm bad at the schedule with this one. I think it is Wednesday. Yeah. Yes. I'm seeing some reports here that we got a wet race, a wet FP1 at Silverstone. So it could be an exciting
also protests apparently happening out there as well.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yes. So we'll see. Okay. So that's no breaks midweek next week and no dunks at some point over the weekend or early next week. Don't you worry, because the NBA never stops. You know, when we say, hey, let's take a week off, and then a whole bunch of shit happens. You gotta love it. Clipper Bros.
You heard it here first. Have a great time. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, a car's arms are its windshield wipers, but its hands are its mirrors.
Embrace the weekend, people. Happy Canada Day.
You could stay, every day. And I'd be happy every minute.